Okay. I'm calling the McKenzie School District School Board meeting to order at 5:31. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're not going to take community comments. Lynette Smith. Lynette, welcome.
Hi, my name is Lynette Smith. I'm president of the PTO that we've established here at McKenzie High. Just wanted to give an update on our amazing bike sale that we had during the concert. It turned out great. We had great community support. We raised $542. $271 was donated to the music program in order for them to use it as they see fit. We're also doing we are volunteering to sell the swag. We just got in youth sizes, so we're hoping to have them at the tournament this weekend. Speaking of the tournament, anyone who would like to volunteer their hours for concession on Friday evening for the game.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Anybody have any questions on consent agenda? I move that we accept the consent agenda as shown on the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, so Alyssa moved and Jason from above, second. All in favor? Aye. All in favor? Aye. 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 Okay, it's unanimous. Reports and discussion, student body. Myra, thank you for coming.
The ASB is doing college here lately, which is where teachers fill out all those appreciation for the students, and we can talk with them and bring them to the field, and we know in the class. And then we've been doing that for all of the students. I think we have 7 or 8 left, so we're hoping to get those done tomorrow. So that's been going really well. I think it's actually the smoothest I've ever had it gone. I've been doing it for 3 years, honestly, so that's really nice. The elementary leaders were planning a winter social for early December, and they decided they wanted to move it to January 14th because they hadn't gotten some of their stuff done quite quick enough, and it was just going to be too rushed. So they decided to move that, and we're pretty far along with that. We've got poster design done. Discussing things. The leadership class also made a little card for Jamie since he's not here for holiday year. We thought it would be nice to make one especially for him that he can pick up. So tomorrow is a dress up day. It's wearing the ugly sweater. So I've had Grace and William go around to each of the classes and remind them about that, because sometimes the kids don't quite catch the morning announcements because they're not in class at the time of intercom, or they don't see the little flyers that are up, so that's the best way to figure out all the students. And then we had the winter concert, and that went pretty well. A lot of people enjoyed it, and all of the kids got with this stuff.
Thank you. Thank you very much. District, Mr. Thompson.
Okay, mine's pretty short this month. Yeah, so we, talking about heading out for winter break, but just kind of reflecting back on the nice break that we had for Thanksgiving. It's nice seeing that people recharged coming back. Then from that, we're working with Rochelle Weiser Nieto with the Lane ESD Native Youth Wellness Program. We're discussing honoring the local Native American tribes by displaying their flags in the gym. So we had some discussion about replacing the flag in the old gym. And then we just kind of went on with well, there's other nations that should be recognized as well. So it's been nice getting to know Rochelle and the supports that she provides, Native students and other students all throughout Lane County. So kind of looking at trying to set up 2 things, kind of one that's like more of like a public community dedication, like maybe on a game night, and then having one more like break for students, so it's more of a, you know, educational assembly kind of thing too, so we're excited about that. One of the things kind of working in the background is trying to get an easement figured out. So currently we draw our irrigation water from former fish hatchery ponds that are on the other side of the creek that Jim Baker just gave us access to for years. And with Jim's passing, his daughters really wanted to make sure that the school continued to have access to that regardless of what should happen to the property further on down the road. So working with them and then the district council to get easements put in place so that way we can continue to draw from those for the foreseeable future. So it's just kind of one of those things that I don't want to bring up, but we're kind of lingering there in the background. We'll touch on some of the other stuff we've been working on, some of the other reports. So like this month, we'll talk a little bit more about state report cards, talk a little bit about the work we've been doing around student representation on the board at your request. And then also, it's a bargaining year with the teachers, so we'll need to name a team. Get ready for that. We received the intent to bargain a couple of weeks ago from the association, so that ball is already rolling. So any questions or thoughts?
That was our irrigation one.
Yeah. Yeah, we have, the district has a water right on Elk Creek and then from Cone Creek, and then there's a water right on a spring that I haven't figured out where that is yet, but we still have active water rights on the creeks.
Okay. So if for some reason or other this couldn't work out, we still have access to irrigation
Yeah,
water.
we would just have to build something on our side of the creek and then go through how do you go about navigating drawing from the watershed? Because the rules have changed since they have the diversion trough off of the creek when those first built. So there'll be more red tape that we have to look at, but we still have access to the water.
Any questions for Lane on that? Facilities, Fred's not here, so we put that to Lane.
So yeah, just kind of update on the hazard mitigation grant. So after the meeting they had with you last month and then kind of the feedback they'd gotten from staff and some students, they've been kind of going and thinking about next steps. So met with the leads and then the folks from Lane County, just kind of like what are the next steps that they need to follow. A lot of us are trying to figure out the order of work to be able to fulfill their contracts and make sure that all that's right. But looking at the total elementary project, I think like it was a big number and a big kind of broad scope because it hasn't been refined. So there was about, what was it, 25 million, and looking at the resources available through Oregon Emergency Management. That's a little bit beyond what's there in the fund. So we're gonna kind of go back and look at other ways to reduce some of the scope to get it to a place that we feel secure asking the state for that funding. They're pretty optimistic that they can get a great deal of what they talked about in it because the guesses were so big that they don't want to err on the side of under guessing. So I'm gonna keep you guys posted as that goes through. That'll be part of break, is checking in with the architects and finding ways to pull in some of the changes that staff, students recognizes are going over the plans, but people are pretty excited. Yeah, to see some stuff moving forward. Monday, we had some staff from Comfort Flow Heating. They came up, they were walking me and some of the facility staff through the building HVAC settings to see if like some of the heat, hot and cold we're dealing with is just not having the settings properly balanced. So we learned a lot. And so hopefully the swings have started to level. Now that they're at like kind of a uniform setting, now we can do some more minor adjustments and test some other things. So that was kind of, I don't know how much you guys have been and HVAC, it's a whole other world. And then we're talking about boilers and air handlers. It was kind of a fun learning experience. Gutter repairs contractors are on site. They started taking down the damaged gutters. So this is being funded through FEMA funding that was tied to the ice storm last year. So majority of that will be covered through that. So they're going to work through winter break to replace those gutters because they were in a sad state after the storm. So that's the facilities report in a nutshell.
So on the mitigation, so you're talking about what's the timeline for the next
I
like
think,
update of
not
substantial information?
I'm not sure when they want to come back to you and staff. You know, they do. I know they need to, they're shooting to have stuff together by like mid to late February to pass on to OEM for budgeting. So then if they have enough of the a ballpark figure that then they can request additional funding from the state for. That's kind of their time.
And then on the boiler system, so they give us a lot of pointers and stuff like that to try to make what we have work. Do they say that it's still not not the best system, or I mean, what was their, or did we even get any thoughts of their overall thoughts of the boiler system?
I think that like, you know, I think overall, like they think like the mechanical seems to be working fairly well, just like the controls are super out of date. So you're looking at controlling something with computer software from, you know, almost 25 years ago at this point. The way that they control valves is different now from like these computer program like actuator that operates these plungers to other opening and closing devices. So they're going to give us a price on what it would cost to update the controls.
But again, it's kind of sounds like a Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think like, well, either anything we do is going to be, we won't have, you know, a cooling option unless we find like doing that with the controls makes the heat work optimally, and then we have funding to look at how we can get it cooling until we can get the other funding to do the work that we were kind of dreaming about with the HMG.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the price comes back. You know, you call, it's fun to call folks and get information, but then they're also like, that's their job and their, so there's always the sales pitch, and that's just good to know what. I think we for a while had a hard time of just being okay asking like how much is it going to cost, because we thought it was going to be astronomical, and most of the time it is, but then at least we have like a target and we can make plans accordingly. So,
Hopefully our plans is that it's.
yeah.
Any other questions for Lane?
I have one question. It was boiler run by diesel, so tanks for the bill. We had to respect the road. That was additional. That's a huge liability for anywhere underground tanks.
Yeah, that's something I think we need to look into. Yeah.
Any other questions for Lane? Did Brent put one in here? I'm sorry. He did it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Should be report. It's in the shared file. And it kind of touches on some of the things that Myra talked about. You know, just kind of remember, I guess we're heading out for a break. You know, sometimes it's a lot of excitement, but then for also some students, it's a lot of, you know, trepidation and kind of nervousness of, you know, not being at school for a while. So emotions are kind of high at this point of the year. He points out that middle high teachers have been working with Miss Christensen and Lane County staff around sources of strength, which is like a curriculum that allows trained staff and students to support each other in tough times. elementary is really focusing on getting RTI reestablished. That's been what they've been using, that collaboration time on Thursdays. Winter sports, we're in the thick of basketball. They've gone as far as Pendleton. They went down to Gold Beach last weekend, so they're getting some different ends of the state. And then, as Lynette said, this weekend is the McKenzie Winter Classic, so it'd be nice to have a tournament back here. We used to host it. It'd be nice to have it back. We have a good facility to host tournaments with the two gyms. So excited to host some teams and community about that. Yeah, the winter concert was great. Mr. Lake and the students really put in a lot of hard work. It was fun seeing staff participate as well. Mr. Gosa, Mr. Day, Mr. Calloway sat in on some of the performances. And I thought it was really cool. And Brent points out how Mr. Lake also allowed a lot of students to have solo opportunities to perform. So that was a lot of fun. And then we come back from break January 6th. So that's kind of Brent's report in a nutshell.
Any comments or questions on that report? And Wendy's financial report, is there anything that she wanted to?
Yeah, I'll just kind of do the usual. So on the pink sheet on the front page, if you look at the period revenue November column, it's November, and that means property taxes are coming in. So you can see that first line, the property tax revenue is up. Total revenue is $1,735,046. Total expenditures for November was $374,765. She wanted you to know that she's working on finalizing the audit for 2024 with the auditors, so she wants to have that to you soon. And then on the next page, the total district accounts payable was $101,044.74. Payroll was $183,637.61, and then student body was $1,942.39. So if you have any deeper questions, please email Wendy and she'll be able to clarify. But it is nice to see when you get into this month, property taxes start coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
She must be in there.
She was
Breathe a sigh of relief for
Yeah.
that. Okay, any further questions? Just like I said, email Wendy. So our state report card report.
Okay. Quick. And we're just gonna look real quick at a glance profiles. So they'll start with the school level, and they look very similar because we only have the one school. The district calls out some of the things. So I'm looking at this guy here. So class sizes went up a little bit, but we're still far under the Oregon average. So we're about 15 students per class. Oregon had an average of 22.5. It shows our regular attenders went down 1% from the previous year, still above the Oregon average of 66%. On track to graduate, so those are students having enough credits coming out of the 9th grade year to make sure they graduate within 4 years. We went up slightly. We're about at the Oregon average of 85%. On-time graduation went up. In previous years, we're still a little behind the Oregon average, and some of this, it's tough because when we get into kind of the detail sheet, on the back, we're so small that sometimes kids, one kid is more than 10% of so it can always swing either way. So either really works in our favor and we look really great, or sometimes we have things like that where it doesn't look too great. But I think grades come up, we're doing a good job. And then 5-year completion so had a decrease below the state average. Because the senior class was smaller than 10 students, they suppressed the data to do privacy. And then on this, on the back, it also breaks it down by the different demographic groups, and because some of those demographic groups are too small, we don't see all of those. Most of the, the advanced coursework, CTE, extracurriculars, those have been the same from different years. It'd be cool next year when we do it, mentioning our PTO there in the current community engagements, so that'll be nice. Okay, looking at the district at events profile. It's pretty much the same data. They do call out third grade ELA. So our scores went down a little bit from the previous year, but we're still above the Oregon average with our third graders in English language arts test scores. And then our 8th grade math that year was well above the state average, so 46% as opposed to 27% of students making that. Sometimes these are kind of frustrating too, because we have how the state wrote the rules around state testing. There's, the opt-out. And I know they wanted to provide, families, the freedom to, but then a lot of times the families that choose not to have their students test, or some that could really help our scores where, I won't go through all of the, accountability individuals if you guys want to go through, but you'll see like one of the where we get dinged is like how much participation in the those tests. We're supposed to have 94%. We're usually right around the upper 80s. But overall, I think we're doing good work. The numbers, the percentiles get a little crazy based on our small size, but overall, I think we should feel good about what's happening in our buildings. Any questions about report cards?
And how is this, remind me how this is still, gets out to the families, do they get a copy of this report card that goes to the families?
Yeah, I think the rule says we have to do it online.
Okay.
Post it online, and we'll let them know where to find it online too.
Yeah, and I look forward to when we get more detailed reports of the actual testing that we do as a district too. I think that's like a greater, more informational than what we get from the state. Because it's such again, the small numbers and like, but I can't believe that. That's a pretty low average for the 8th grade mathematics at 27. I mean, I'm not going to still be very excited that we're so much higher than it's when it's 27%, but yay for us for that, but still. I mean, that's pretty low.
Yeah, it's tough. I think for a while we're still going to be seeing like effects of the pandemic and the fire and some of this in this data for a while. So my hope is once you're looking at things like graduation rates, those are the ones I really look at. And sometimes that's it bothers me that we're only at 86%, stuff like that. If we can get kids on to their next step with their diploma, that's sorry.
And I think that's where we can a lot of times do shine because of being a small school, and that it's hard for a lot of times for these kids to have crack. But again, it just takes 1 or 2, and then that number just plummets. Any questions for Lane on that?
It's just me talking at you guys, man. Sorry. I shared.
So we'll go on. So,
Sorry.
Student board representative policy.
So a couple months back, he directed me to start looking into, what would it look like to add a student representative to the board. I think there was some interest from board members and some community members with the students to make this happen. So I'll try to drag this over. So let's see. I'll have it in the file, but so put together a survey that was distributed through their advisory period guide group. And thanks to Ms. Christensen for making that happen. So we had about 49 responses. overall, which is actually pretty good. So we asked some questions like, do you feel adding a student representative to the board of directors is a good idea? And a lot of them said, yeah. What grade limits should there be for students? It's kind of, the first two, there's, anybody wide open, and then it would be only juniors and seniors, sophomores and up, and then only seniors. I think like as a whole, they're still kind of mixed. But it looks like they'd want it to be more wide open than just seniors. Should there be a minimum GPA criteria? Most of them felt 3.0 or higher would be good. Then it would be a 3.5, so a little bit more restrictive, and about 20% said no, we shouldn't do GPA.
But all in all, it looks like, yes,
Yes.
there should be,
Yeah.
some GPA.
Yeah, and at least kind of that 3.0 seems to be kind of that lower threshold. This one was kind of fun. Should there be?
It's still a yes, but
Yeah, overall,
Mostly, yeah.
Everybody yes or no.
like 90, like we were talking with students yesterday, like 95 to 90% attendance is pretty good. Like, you don't miss a single day. But I do think that they feel like, it should be considered. I think overall they feel pretty good about 2 years, 3 years didn't really hold much water with them. This one was kind of interesting. It's like, should the representative be elected as a member of the student council, or should this position require an application and interview process? And most of them said they like the idea of an application and interview process. And then it's kind of funny, some of the feedback on some of these other ones too. We'll come back to that question after these. So then currently, student body vice president attends and reports to the board monthly. Should the duty as student representative be added to the vice president's responsibility? The majority of them said no. Some student body officers have more duties than others. The business manager's duties have been unclear for some time. Would this office be better used as a student representative? The majority thought that might be a good idea. This is so going back to the interview. If you felt an application interview process would be more appropriate, who should be in charge of reviewing applications and interviewing who's interested? So anywhere from student councils, One was really funny, like it was like nobody because we should vote on it. I was like, way to offer double feedback there. Yeah, I voted on election instead. The committee made up of each of these groups was interesting because they had student representatives from each grade. One of them said me, Miss Christensen, and Mr. Meister. I don't know if I would want that duty. Kind of like what would motivate you to want to serve as a student representative? Overall, they thought scholarship funding might be motivating. Service was really kind of the next one. Helping shape district policy, letters of reference, bragging rights. I don't want to. Thank you for the feedback. This one was kind of fun. Hearing the problems of the community and sharing it. Then kind of also like you guys have brought this up. Was like, what are some issues that would prevent you from serving? Conflicting with other activities is a big one. Responsibilities at home, work, a lack of transportation. They all showed to be kind of hindrance. So that's what we asked the students in the survey, and then we followed that up with a listening session yesterday, and so Dana was gracious enough to come in and hang out. And it's just kind of a brief summary. So during guide group, we met 11 students came from grades 9 through 12. So we went through the survey results like we did with you. Students seemed to like the idea the most of the application and interview versus being elected. One of the comments was interesting, like sometimes students don't participate or don't offer to participate because they don't want to have to get up and give a speech. I thought that was Interesting about this kind of hindrance. We talked about the incentives and some of the good feedback, kind of got both like positive and negative. I think some folks were concerned that if there was scholarship money out there, some students would only like try to serve to get the scholarship and not actually attend meetings. Others felt like the scholarship would be a good reward because it'd be a lot of time put into the position. And then we let them know, like, you guys have brought up the concern about needing to make sure the students who did it participated and saw things through, and that there would be some sort of mechanism to remove students that didn't meet the expectations. Yeah, and then they were just kind of curious when it would take effect. We said most likely probably next school year, set it up, because as I got thinking more about it, once you decide which way you want to go with policy, then they're gonna have to go with what they need to do on their, constitution, decide governing documents too, and that could take a little bit. So, in that vein, we have some sample policies, thanks to OSBA. So there's some decisions that, if you want to go down this road, you would need to make. So the number of positions, the oath, that's pretty much the same oath that you all take. Student representative shall be selected through a process determined by the board. The board will outline a published application selection process, as well as the roles and responsibilities, the representative, communication expectations, procedures, regulations, student representatives. So remember the brackets, that's optional, so you can leave that in or take it out. Superintendent or designee would develop administrative regulations to include application, selection process, roles and responsibilities, communication expectations. The information will be published in appropriate communications and the district website. So you can kind of pick between these two. Then it talks about there'll be a process. So then when we talk about process and policy, it is always in a administrative regulation. So this would be the AR that spells out how it would be done. And this is all you guys to change and tweak and edit this however you want. So what grade would you want them to be? They're going to be full-time students. You can have them be able to reapply for a second term. Talks about the oath of office and the previous policy that we looked at. Non-voting member can't be an officer of the board, can attend executive sessions. There'll be decisions you need to make around when their service would start and end. Will they attend all regular board meetings and work sessions and budget meetings? Will review and read the board packets. Can participate in discussions of the board at regular meetings and work sessions. Will have authority given to school board members by parliamentary procedure, like point of order and appeal. Do you want them to be able to make motions? That will be responsible for providing regular updates to the district student community through available communication channels. Will notify the board if they want to resign. Vacancies will be filled through an established process. Talk about what you want that process to be. Will train their successor, but that was kind of a fun thing. May be removed from office for failing to meet rules and responsibilities and regulations. That was an important piece. Some of the duties, a non-inclusive list of duties. So being at school events, representing the board to the school student community, communicate with clubs, organizations, serve on board committees, participate in promotion of the role of student representative for the next successor. And then this is kind of like this is really about what that application selection timeline would look like. Who sets up the process? Where do you find the applications? Where do you submit the application? When do you have to submit the applications? All of those deadlines and things are included here. They also suggest when to publish application deadlines, what a deadlines makes sense, how many weeks you might want to set aside. Yeah, this is, I'm just gonna come at you, mile and a half, so.
All right, so everything in bracket, we kind of have to decide. So like here, they're saying general guidelines. The March application. So then that would be that by the end of June, we've appointed, if we decide that the board has to approve that. Which I think is what, one of the things up there, that's what that process is for.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd say like, this is how, so this would be the process to apply if we did the application, if we do process. It would be published by this date, this is where you find it. This is when you have to have it. And yeah, hopefully you'd have somebody, ready to go before the end of the school year.
Hey, Lane,
Yeah, Jason.
one thing in your reading that I would have a concern, and I think you guys will get it, is with them introducing motions, we could end up with disruptive meetings. So I think when are we going to address those individual parts that you just read? Because I don't think I would like to see an outright ban of them being able to introduce motions, but I think maybe saying introduce motions with another board member, so we don't just get bombarded by 20 different things that they want. I could see that being, I could see that becoming disruptive because we've already had that happen without a board member.
But they would have to make a motion on something that's on the agenda, correct? I mean, that's
No,
how.
I'm sorry, maybe I misstated it. I'm not making a motion. Was it agenda items?
Yeah, it didn't call out the agenda. It did say, and this is bracketed, it talks about may make motions which may be acted upon by the board, except on employee matters or executive session matters. So it is a little bit more limited than my brief skim over, but that is bracketed. That would be a decision.
Okay.
You get to make is like, do you want them to be able to make motions?
I don't want to limit their input, but I also don't want the tail wagging the dog. Because we could get the wrong person in that could tie up a meeting. So I just want to make sure there's some checks and balances. So we're running a board meeting, not running a student board meeting. If that makes sense to you guys.
Right, and again, I'm saying it can only be a motion on something that we're doing an action item on,
Okay.
is how I read that, and that's how,
I agree with Jason, because that should be a board member
yeah,
making that motion.
motion.
Thanks. I hate doing this. I mute because if there's background noise, I don't want to blow your ears. So I'm going to mute, but that was my only concern. I think it's great. I support it. So thank you very much.
And Dana, you were gonna say something?
Well, I think you can state something, I think, make a motion, this vision of the chairman of the board, to run it through the chairman of the board. If you can read out all the.
So the board would have to approve, I mean, the chairman would have to approve that motion going forward.
I almost worry that would be more of the time. More time consuming, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing what they're saying here. They want them to be totally involved in an entire
Right.
process of being on the board. Definitely hear what Jason and you guys are saying too. So maybe, I don't know, a second, or just take that out.
I mean, that's what you could do, is not try it with not having it, and then if we in a couple years you get through it, like that's not really an issue.
Yeah.
Then you can look at when you review the policy, adding that back in.
Okay. So we would take 10 off, is what I'm hearing. Is Melissa on? I didn't see.
Are we, hashing this out tonight or?
I think we should hash some of it out because, yeah, I did is hash.
Yeah, because I think
Under
like,
this discussion, because we do have it under an action item too, so if we can,
yeah, because I
can
think
we do that now?
then, like, the process would be like today, this, you guys would decide if you want to put this into first reading next
Yeah.
meeting like you would with any other policy, but I think having
Having
guardrails would make sense.
So my- Am I kind of hearing a consensus that 10, let's remove 10?
I'm okay with removing 10 and, you know, we can decide to introduce it, later.
Then like maybe let's scroll up to number 1 and let's just, shall we go down these bracketed ones? Or is that, which should we start at the beginning and look at brackets? Right now, let's look at brackets. And
Yep.
look at others.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, I think the students felt pretty good about, you know, having a broad swath of ages represent them.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's any. I think it's just numbers wise, having more is better. I know they were in the discussion with, you know, when Dan and I yesterday, they weren't super hot on like freshmen.
No, and I think, you know, if we're talking about, if they're applying when they're in 10th grade, then, yeah.
I think one of the things that was first talking about when we were meeting with Devin and Melissa and such is that, they were suggesting, you were, I think, suggesting that it'd be older grade, but then also the subject came up like, sometimes there's not very many kids either. And so, but I think let's start it with that, and then if we're not,
Start with 11 or with 10?
then I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with 10 at 10 back.
Any other thoughts on that?
I think the freshmen are trying to get their feet on the ground and learn the school and the system. So I think 10th up would be a good idea.
And I would concur.
And the next. Yeah, it's the wording around length
Yeah.
of service.
Our first meeting is in August, so
Is that feasible for a student? I mean,
If they're.
I guess if they can't make it, but.
If they're appointed, they'll be, you know, put in June, then there'd have to be a little bit of, you know, prepping them. Getting that thing.
maybe there'd be an orientation meeting with them prior to the August meeting.
Yeah.
Either by their predecessor or for the first round, it'd have to be with Lane or in the board member.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the ideas that, Devin about that forward. And we met, so August. Through June 30th. Yeah. Would they,
Did, go back to, we don't have to go back to it, but during that survey, did we say that was the greater majority that it would be a 1 year or was it a 2 year?
I think the majority of them thought 2 was okay, 3 was really like
Too much.
too much.
'Cause I like the idea of a 2 year term rather than a 1 year term, because 1 year you're just getting.
There's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn and you get, you know, you may be nervous and not participating, so I kind of like that maybe. But 2 year might scare. Else.
But they also have the option to resign if they.
Yeah, that's true.
These are, you know, if they want to take on something like this and they're grown up decisions that they'll have to make and.
Okay. So we're like an academic year, August 1st through June 30th. So then will they be allowed to attend work sessions and budget meetings?
I don't
Yeah, I think,
see why not.
I think work sessions are pretty
Mhm.
I
participant.
think that would be the key to learning, because especially the budgeting process. So I
Yeah. Okay.
And I did get a message and I had somebody message me, and I do like one of the comments, so I'll share it about what I had said about if a student The only reason I'm doing this is we already talked about it. And if I get cut off, I didn't want to lose this, is if a student does make a motion, if we allow that, it has to be seconded by a board member for it to proceed, which would be normal, but they'd be allowed to introduce and then it would be seconded by a board member.
That's going back to the motion thing again. So that somebody sent you that comment. Is that what you just said, Jason?
Yes, sorry, I'm at work. Yes, correct.
Thank you. So do we want to revisit that, or do we want to keep it how we did it, or try it for 1 year, and if we don't like it, we switch it? We'll keep it how we have it. Okay.
To you all. Okay. This is about vacancies through an established process, or student representative may be appointed as deemed appropriate by the board. Do you want to establish vacancy filling process, or do you want to have the power just to appoint the student to fill the position?
Okay, so we go back to the listing or the survey from the students. Most of them wanted it to be an application process rather than an election.
So like this would be like, so if you had a student and they had to leave, how would you fill that vacancy? Open it back up, Jeff. So then you
That's
want to
fine.
have through the established process of another interview. Yeah. Got it.
And I'd like 13.
Will meet prior to finishing a term of service with a successor student representing highlight objects. And then it's passing of the baton. Okay. And then I know 14 touches on what some of the concerns you guys had early on. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at two different things. I'm scrolling. Okay, so application selection. The process for selecting the student board members established each year by the administration or the board.
Let's do the board.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that too.
And so then it would be published on the school website. Okay, do we want to include in school communications or just the website?
And to school, I mean, the more the merrier.
Yeah,
More ways to get it out there.
It's not creating a lot more work that it shouldn't.
Applications for student representative must be submitted by the end of the school day on or before the published deadline, writing to the district office. All that seems.
Or should we district office or school office? I think district office. Do they know where the district office?
Well, I mean, you know, yeah, that's.
They're gonna have to figure it out.
That would be fun.
Applications will be forwarded to the board secretary, but if they're applying to the district office, they'll already get the email, so if you need to include that. Student representative applicant, if deemed eligible to serve, will also participate in an interview with the selection committee. The selection of a student representative for the subsequent school year will be made by the committee no later than June 1. Yep. District designated staff members point of contact. So let's see, sorry. Selection of students representative will be based on the applicant's completed application and submitted materials and the interview because you're having an interview. Too far. Where am I at? The district will organize a selection committee consisting of not less than 5 members, including the superintendent or designee, the student's building principal or designee, 1 board member, and the current student representative, or at least 2 students appointed by the building principal. The district may designate an alternate staff member, example, school counselor, teacher, as a committee member if participation of a student or students is not practical for the current circumstances. Any feelings on that configuration?
Seems reasonable, there's room for substitution as needed.
Yeah, I would like to have a student.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then last decision is the district will invite a student representative to attend public budget meetings. So I don't know why that,
Yeah, I know, because it's,
unless you,
we talked about that and we chose that option in the meetings if they're.
I was just interested in it bracketed.
Yeah.
Public.
Well, because we have, I guess, if you
Yeah,
have the,
we have the
if we have budget
committee
meetings.
meetings and, okay, budget. It's public, so sure.
So I think there was bracketed stuff in the qualified stuff.
Policy,
Back there.
we can do that. Okay. So then. This would be a position,
Mhm.
student representative on the McKenzie board.
Mhm.
Whatever it is. A student representative shall be installed on the board with the following oath of office. Do you want them to do an oath?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same oath we take, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. So the first section is like decide and discuss whether the board will be the driver for application selection, et cetera, or if the decision-making is a responsibility of administration and or student body from the respective schools. The first paragraph indicates the board will manage. The next paragraph is more appropriate if the administration and or student body will process the choice. So it sounded like from the AR, you want it to be the board, so we'll fix that one. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think that, so we will,
That's,
so I think theoretically that was sort of like a first reading, but we'll put it back in, so we're following.
Yeah.
The right process, but. Very cool.
Yeah.
Some good work.
okay, yeah. Any other comments or questions or anything on that? Jason, you good?
I am good, thank you.
We didn't settle any of the like, scholarship or,
And I don't know if that necessarily needs to be captured in policy. I can look at, I know Fern Ridge does that, so I'll see if they have it included in their policy, and if so, we'll try to tack it in for the first read.
Do we want to?
yeah, any incentive.
And where would that come from if we did? District, I mean, is there board funds that could be in?
Yeah, that would be a good one, D. With the question, I'm sure there's, if it, I don't see it being an exorbitant amount, so there's probably some money you can pull, a few $100s. Or it could be something that, we can figure out if the board wanted to do some sort of fundraising for some way to pull in the PTO or the Ed Foundation or something. I'm sure there's ways that could get covered, but a few $100 isn't. We can find that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on policy. Okay, make a note about the.
Yeah, speaking of policies, yeah, guess what? First reading.
Oh, my lord. Okay. Yeah,
I didn't think. That's right.
and
That.
I'll try to make it a little more expediently. So we started, so this isn't all of the policies from the policy update. We met, Elaine and I agreed, let's start with working on the requireds, the highly recommended, and then we'll bring back more next meeting. That are some of the optional ones that we might want to look at. So if you look at on the agenda, where you have them all listed out, I can explain kind of why these are needing to be updated. So then like the AC through GBN, JBA, AR, it's all tied to, there was the recent edits to the Title IX law that was just put out by the president. And so then that changes the role of the Title IX coordinators and the civil rights coordinators. So you'll see as we go through individually, that will be, those things will be called out, and that's why there's adjustments are being made.
And I'm sorry, Lynn, did you say this is the AC one?
Yeah, AC through GBN, JBA, AR. IKF, their edits need to be changed because of Senate Bill 992. So they changed the alternate certificate to an attendance certificate. So then those are being shifted. But then there was also changes in credit requirements that I'll point out that we need to then make some changes to, because as a McKenzie's always been, well, I'll get to it when we get to that policy, sorry. Okay, so then JBA, GBN through JFEAR, that goes back to the Title IX civil rights coordinator changes. The medication, the rest of these, the medication ones, there was House Bill 2002, and then also House Bill 2395, and then Senate Bill 1552 changed how medications are to be given with students, and that also affected the OAR. So that's where these come from. And luckily, some of them are like deletes because they pulled them into a new, more tidy one. Okay, so AC, non-discrimination, it's not choices, but there's a lot of new language added. And so you see how it adds in that part about civil rights coordinator. Okay. And then the AR1 now explains how to do a discrimination or civil rights complaint. And it spells out that there are different, there are other policies that could have other processes that go with it. So like, you know, number 12, JFCF, it has its own complaint procedure as well. And then I did look, our policy has all of those in the bracket. So hazing, harassment, intimidation, bullying, menacing, and so forth. So that's there, walks it through. The other one is the complaint, who do you complain to in step 1, and that's the principal. And then we'll keep it with the principal to keep it consistent through on the rest of step 1. Moving through is just more expanding on things. And page 3-4, the second paragraph with that bracketed 5. So there's a choice between timelines. So the timeline can be extended either by the district for good cause. Any extension will be communicated to the parties and include a reason for the delay, or timelines can be extended by mutual agreement between the district and the complainant. I think the first one gives the district more flexibility. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, makes sense.
The next page, 4-4, is a similar form, but they added in the civil rights and called it out. This is the second AR tied to this, talks about sex-based discrimination. It defines consent. And then it also now requires us to in the policy designate and give the contact information for the Title IX coordinator, Civil Rights coordinator, Section 504 coordinator, and the Title II coordinator with their name, title, email, and phone number. So we'll get those in Before the site goes. You have to include links to the directions to get to the grievance procedures on both of those next ones, then we have to include the website. That's the rest of those on the proposed. GBN, JBA, sexual harassment. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it calls out, gives more definition to the process. And it refers back to the AR1 that we first talked about and who you talked to in that policy. Yeah, I think that was most of that one. A lot of it's the same. Okay, the next one, GBN, JBA, AR1, they're recommending to delete because most of this is included in the policy. And they're also recommending deleting the AR2. Okay. IKF, graduation requirements. So they've expanded some things about some requirement waivers for different students experiencing different things going on. Our minimum credit requirement remains 25, the state's is 24. So we require one more, but right now we still require 4 credits of language arts, 3 credits of math, 3 credits of science, 3 credits in social studies. The new requirement for half a unit of civics is there. Now that's been added. And then this financial literacy, it comes up again. So McKenzie's always been requiring personal finance before this movement. So what they did is they added that requirement, and now it threw off our requirement because they call it out again. So there's half credit of higher ed and career path skills, 1/2 credit of personal finance education. Those are the new things that they've introduced. And then ours had 1/2 credit of econ and then 1/2 credit of personal finance. So then I noticed when we got down to 11, it said 5 credits of electives, but if you do the math, because they moved the personal finance, that we're at 5.5 credits of electives. So I think we need to look at the math again to make sure I'm tracking it, right, Nikki? But that would be, we might have to make that change on 11, that you don't just have 5 credits, because in order to get to 25 years, so there's a half credit missing somewhere. So,
What?
yeah, exactly. I was reviewing it one more time. I was like, wait a minute, because they made it a requirement and then we had that,
Yeah.
it pulled out one of our, anyways.
Credit.
We have stuff to demonstrate proficiency in essential skills. Let's see, adds the requirement for the personal finance on that page. Okay, so then on 5-9. So essential skills appeal. So the district will either establish an appeal process or follow board policy KL in the event of an appeal for the denial of a diploma based on the essential skills graduation requirement. The district will retain student work samples and student performance data to ensure that sufficient evidence is available in the event of an appeal. Would you want to have a different appeal process, or would you want to funnel things through KL?
Have we ever used our KL policy?
Well, that's the public, yeah, we could use the complaint policy.
Okay. For this, in this
For not for
specific-
this,
yeah.
no, because I don't think we've
Okay.
had an appeal on.
Okay.
on central skills. Usually, we work really hard with kids to get them through,
Mhm.
because there's multiple channels that you can go through to demonstrate essential skills. So if you want to set up a separate process, we could pick that, or if you want to just have them go through the complaint process, either way is fine. It's just knowing that we'd have to have an appeal process should.
Thoughts? Keep it the same? None? Keep it the same? That's what I thought. Yeah, why change it if it's working?
So just, we'll put it as establish an appeal process and then once we get, yeah, okay. Cool. The next page, so this is the new certificate of attendance that we talked about. So then a student can get awarded a certificate of attendance that have maintained regular full-time attendance for at least 4 years, beginning in grade 9, do not satisfy requirements for high school diploma, modified diploma, or extended diploma, and have a documented history. And so what a documented history means is evidence in the cumulative record and education plans of a student that demonstrates the inability over time to maintain grade level achievement, even with appropriate modifications and accommodations. So this would be a student that attends, but then isn't able to get enough, accumulate enough credits, even through a modified or extended diploma. So just be. So I think I would recommend keeping all of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
On.
Did I miss one?
5-9 under essential skills.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
They're hard to see.
Thank
Oh,
you
yeah,
for
yeah.
the catch. So essential skills, the district will or will not allow English language learner students to demonstrate proficiency in essential skills in the student's language of origin for high school diploma or modified diploma. So if we have a student who speaks Spanish, will we allow them to show their essential skills by speaking Spanish? Or writing in Spanish?
How would
Or
we-
German?
How would we determine that we have to hire somebody that's likely to do?
Yeah, we would have to hire somebody to support them as an English language learner. And then they would help navigate that process. So I think like essential skills, being able to do those things is the same if you're speaking English or Spanish or Russian. So we'll go with Will.
Sounds reasonable.
Consensus on Will?
Good catch, Nikki. Thank you. And just running.
6-9.
Towards the bottom and all these little ones.
Oh. Down regular full-time attendance. Excused absences are considered absences or will not be counted against a student. So in calculating the attendance, do we want to hold excused absences against them in figuring out if they can get the certificate of attendance?
Somebody's got COVID or is really super sick or something like that. I don't want them there anyway, so.
So we'll,
And things happen, you know, you don't get an operation, you break your leg, and
there's another one. Regular full-time attendance means not having 8 or more unexcused absences in any full period during which was in session. This will be calculated on the annual basis if there's 7 unexcused absences for less than 20% of school days. So I don't know if that's. I think so. Then we have to pick between that first one or that second one, essentially. Is that how? Yeah,
are we still in that number 4?
we're on the 5th.
6-9.
Yeah, 6-9, the 5th paragraph, 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4. So then there's another way to calculate full-time attendance. So do you want to calculate it as 10% total without the excused absences, or do you want to count it as no more 8 unexcused absences in any full week period and not being less than 20% of the days or class periods? I think that one that we talked about 4 seems more straightforward.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry, what did we say?
Those
The,
The first
the fourth regular,
Okay.
the first regular full-time attendance stuff.
Gotcha.
Ooh, that was a hard one. Did we miss any more, Nikki? Okay, JBA, GBNA, so this is gonna look really familiar because we already talked about the GBNA, JBA, so now they just flip it, so. Then again, it's more calling back to who you report sexual harassment and discrimination to, tied to the ACAR one. We'll talk about the investigation, and then it has to delete that first complaint procedure because it's combined in with that ACAR. So I think the last two. Oh, yeah, so that's the delete. There's one more, which I thought was interesting too, here with the JFE. Pregnant and or parenting students, so it's a policy, and then there's a plan that we would put together for a student who is pregnant and or is parenting. And so a lot of it is just, there's not a whole lot of decision. I would recommend keeping that language in that lower part of 1-2. When a district employee is notified of student's pregnancy, the legal right. It's a really conditioned by student and or has a legal right to act if the student employee provide notice to that person. So you provide notice of all of these different things. Who's the Title IX coordinator, different actions to prevent discrimination, our responsibilities for non-discrimination. And then the next page, the student will be allowed to access to a lactation space described in board policy GBDA. It's titled Expression of Milk and Breastfeeding. Ours is mother-friendly workplace, and I think it's because we adopted it in 2019. So we might want to see if there's an update to that policy at GBDA. So I think for second reading, we'd want to put it in line with what our current policy is, but it might be worth looking at that.
Just rewording.
Yeah, or just revisiting that policy, because I imagine there's been some changes since 2019 in that. And then even just the expression of milk is more inclusive than mother-friendly place title, so it could even just be a title. And then I would recommend keeping our designee.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here's the individualized plan for this student. Okay, we're almost there, guys. JHCD medication. So they propose this and then propose deleting the next two. The decision that's called out is at the top of 2-2. And it's more around like Narcan. So a non-injectable short-acting opioid antagonist may be administered to any student or other individual by district personnel, whether or not they have received training on administering the medications on district premises, who the individual administering the short-acting opioid antagonist believes in good faith is experiencing an opioid overdose. The school administrator, teacher, or other school employee may administer a short-acting opioid antagonist to a student who's experiencing an opioid overdose without written permission and instructions of the student's parents and their guardians. So really, it's reducing liability for people acting in good faith if someone's having. I figured you guys would want to keep that.
Yes.
Because we have. Pardon?
We keep Narcan.
Yeah, we have some in the office. And then it's delete the next two. And then tie them both together here in JHCDAR. So it defines administer. I think this is correct. You want to keep that in. It calls out again, what the definition of an opioid overdose is on 2-11. I think we want to keep that. Again, we talked about thinking it was appropriate to allow folks to administer the Narcan. That's in 3-11, well, 4. So then I think like that next, this is where the principal or district nurse shall immediately notify the parent or guardian. I think that's the proper officials who should do that. Trying to figure out the next, so what's the next one? I think for the next few pages, just kind of covers what you're supposed to track when you're giving medications. Okay,
So I'm back up. So you're saying on the, as soon as somebody's being notified immediately, you're saying either principal or school nurse or district, we're allowing any of those. or
I would
nurse.
say
Any of those
the
to do
principal or district nurse, because you don't have like a specific just school nurse,
Okay,
like the one that covers the district.
so okay,
But it would be like, if like in a bigger system, would you want it, the school-based nurse to report to the district nurse first before doing that or not, but you're.
I'm just wondering if if you don't have a school nurse and if the principal's not there, I just like for school, I mean, couldn't the secretary, somebody, I don't know, I'm just asking,
Yeah,
how do we have it now? Do you think?
yeah, it would be like one of the administrators, me or
Okay.
Brent.
I
Or
was very surprised at this, but I think there was a-
Nathan.
Yeah. Okay,
But we do need to,
I just wanna make sure whoever, like if somebody's not here on campus, that a parent gets notified if that happens. Assuming it would happen,
yes.
yeah, the more the merrier.
Let's see, 8-11. So then the top. I know we talked about this a few years ago. The district allows the application of and use by students of non-prescription sunscreen, including sunscreen that contains para-aminobenzoic acid without any required documentation from a licensed healthcare professional. So we, under Oregon law, the sunscreen, you had to have a note, and then they changed it. So I think we keep that, right? Next decisions in 8 down there, DEF. And this is kind of policy that we already follow. You don't administer medication that's unlabeled. You don't repackage it into something or another container. And then this, I think it's just as good hygiene medication, any form categorized as a sedative, stimulant, anticonvulsive, narcotic, analgesic, or psychotropic medication will be counted or measured by the designated personnel, parent, guardian, in the presence of another district employee upon receipt and initialed by the 2 individuals who counted or witnessed the procedure, documented in the student's medical administration report. So I think that's just like any of those are things that disappear. So I think having somebody else makes a lot of sense. And then I would go back to select district nurse and principal immediately. Their H medication will be secured as follows. I don't think we currently store any refrigerated medication, but we do have it in a locked cabinet in a secure area, and it's limited to only the designated personnel to have access to that. And then the designated personnel will be responsible for monitoring medication supplies. So that would be the district official. And 9, emergency response, again, we put district nurse. There will be, if someone has a reaction or something, those are the folks that need to be notified, the parent, guardian, district nurse, and the principal. That way they know how to respond. So -11, yeah, that 8 one, we'd keep that because that would be allowing folks to do. Nothing. Good catch though. Thank you. Disposal medications on 9-11. Some medication not picked up by the students' parents by the end of the school year will be, within 5 days. School days, the end of the medication period, change early will be disposed of by designated personnel. Prescriptions will never be flushed down the toilet or drain or burnt with other waste. Sharps and glass will be disposed in accordance with state guidelines. All medication will be disposed of by designated personnel following BDQ guidelines. I mean, you should keep
Mhm.
all of those. It's amazing the things people do. Getting rid of stuff. And then again, 11. Talks about the MAR being paper or electronic form. They won't include all this data.
Yeah.
And then next page 10-11 is non-liability for folks who do provide like Narcan. So that's, I think it's the line, there's one here on the very end. Nope, that end bracket's just saying that whole
That's the
thing's a
same, yeah, the
bracket.
whole
Okay. Whew. That was only the first half of it.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions on that? Just reading. Okay, so under action items, I'm really not quite sure. Did we say that we wanted to count that as a first reading? The student board representative policies, or shall we call this up, or should we have that just be part of the discussion, and that we're gonna have a first reading on that on next month, and then on the
Yes.
month after that, we can do a second reading on just that one policy.
Yeah, I think
We can do it, but we'll have,
procedure wise, you should run it again as a first reading.
yes.
And then,
Okay, so then that would be that would be the action then, is to call that, have that be our first reading for next meeting. Okay,
I so moved.
so the movement is to have this, our student board representative policy move to the next meeting as our first reading. And so Alyssa moved, Dan second, all in favor, and aye. Jason?
he's on it with one.
Unanimous first one, who's there? Okay, so we need to put together a certified bargaining team for our, I am going to recuse myself from being on there. So, we pretty much need, I think, just one, do we decide to gain one school board member or two school board members that can report?
One or two.
Yeah, we usually have one.
We usually try to have 3, but 1 or 2 is would be perfect. Folks that would have, be able to provide perspective and, enjoy doing that. I kind of bummer that Jason and Melissa are on. I know Melissa's had a history of doing it. She has good relationships. But yeah, whoever would want to do that.
I've done it once before, and I mean, if no one else steps forward, I would consider doing it. I'm just, getting into the busy time of year, and also there are some other things that I'm.
No,
It can be a lot of extra meetings too.
Yeah.
but we think it's going to go fairly, smoothly there, but just as an overview, we usually meet during this, around between, after their contracted time, so that's usually around 4:30-ish, correct? And the meetings, usually take, well, depends, but usually around, yeah, it just depends. I think when I was on it one time, there was maybe 4 meetings total, before contract. I don't know what it's going to be this time, so, it's quite interesting. It's a good thing to do, so, again, I will recuse myself because my daughter-in-law was one of the, what is she? She's the vice president.
So
President. I've never done it, but I have to try. I think you'd like it. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, we can start with one, and if we have one that's really committed, and then
we can reach back out to Melissa and Jason since they're not here. And then if they have interest, then we can put it back on. It'd be good to get it, somebody at least, because we have the intent to bargain, and then we probably want to hit it. Pretty quick out of next year.
so should we move to have Dan on? What's the name? Okay, so,
I move to designate Dana to be on the bargaining, collective bargaining committee.
okay. Alyssa moved, Tim seconded, to have Dana be a part of the bargaining team. All in favor, signify by aye. Okay, and Phyllis Lino. And, I will reach out, and Lane and I will reach out to Melissa, because I think she said something about being interested in this, and Jason.
Yeah.
Both. So, we'll go from there. We are now to school board comments. Do we have any school board comments? I just want to say that you guys I want the district and the staff to have a good, holiday break. I think everybody probably is looking forward to that and needing it. And it's always interesting when it's this late and close to
Yeah.
Christmas. It's a love-hate relationship on that one, for sure. But I wish them all a very good winter break and look forward to seeing them.
That was his comment.
Yeah.
I'm tired. Okay, any other board comments? So future agenda items, we will put the regular school board meeting is January 15th at 5:30. We will, put in there we'll put the certified bargaining team back on there. Anything else? I believe we're gonna talk about, will we have our assessment stuff
It's of February.
February 1st? Okay.
Yeah, because like the benchmark window closes towards the end of January.
So we'll look forward to
But
that.
then you'll also be able to look at semester grades too, so we could get a good K-12.
Look forward to that. Anything else for the grade of fifth or tonight?
I move that we adjourn.
Alyssa moved.
Seconded.
Okay, Alyssa moved, Jason.
Jason,
Tim, all in favor of Jenny? That would be the end of our school board meeting at 6:59.
Thanks for